Welcome back. This is the daily puzzle on Lichess for today. It won't be by the time you see this video, but I failed it. And the reason is because I immediately saw the correct move. That's the first thing that I saw, is challenging this queen, protected by the knight. And if they took it, I would get it, and then they would take my knight, and I would go up a piece of 1 point of material. But I discounted that because going up 1 point of material is almost never the solution to a puzzle. Now, I don't even remember what I ended up playing, but I failed it. Now, that does turn out to be the correct move, and I'm trying to figure out why. Because they do take it, and I take back, and that's the end of the puzzle. I don't know how to get those arrows to disappear off of the board, but I thought, what if it keeps going? Because I went up 1 point of material. I was down 1 point of material when the puzzle began, and now I gained one, so we're even on material. And I don't understand why that's the solution, or why Stockfish gives me a -3 advantage. If the puzzle had continued, and I think it should have, because they have an obvious best move here, which is to take that knight. Now I'm even on material, right? Because the two rooks are 1 point more than the queen, and I have one extra pawn. Well, it says I have two different moves that are close to equal, but the best one is taking that pawn. At least that's what the arrow shows. Well, no, it's having trouble deciding. I would probably take that pawn because it's unguarded, and now I actually am up a point of material, correct? If we're counting all this correctly. And it's those two pawns. That's what gives me the advantage. I get that. I should have a slight advantage because now that I've taken that pawn, I have two passed pawns instead of one. But how do I convert that advantage? And it doesn't look obvious to me because two rooks are pretty powerful if they work together. And one problem I immediately noticed is that this knight right here guards quite a few squares on the board, important squares, to block that check, to challenge the queen here, and here, and here. And as you can see, Stockfish is recommending that they put their rook down there where it would be protected by the knight. So I assume that's what my opponent would probably do. Okay, well, I can check or I can pull the queen back. That's what Stockfish is saying. Let's say I check. Well, guess what? That one's pretty obvious because we already pointed out the knight guards that square. The knight's protecting both of these rooks. Stockfish says, oh, pull the queen back to one of these squares. But do you know what? They can keep challenging my queen with the rooks from those squares. If I go to one of the ones on the third rank here, this rook comes back because the pawn protects that square. Stockfish has settled on a3 as my best move. If it goes to c5, the rook comes back here because it's protected by the knight. Okay, so let's say I go to a3, which protects my bishop. I don't know that they would push this a-pawn. Wouldn't they go here to challenge my queen again? And look, Stockfish says to go back down there. Well, now we've repeated moves. If we repeat that position one more time, it's a draw. So where's my advantage? Well, it says go back here, or again, one of those three squares. Well, they can challenge me from those. Now, I know Stockfish is saying, hey, go try to get this bishop and stuff, but my opponent's going to do this because that's another position that can easily be repeated. It says, yeah, look at that. My -3 advantage is between any of these squares where they can keep challenging my queen. Okay, now c7's a new one. I don't know what they would play if I went to c7, but it's saying it's just as good to go to b6 or a3. They're all about -3.5. Now, I know if I go to a3, they're going to put this rook back here where the pawn protects it, and then I have to move my queen again. That's another position that can be repeated. So I don't understand why that's good. It has settled on b6 as my best move. Okay, now here, they can't immediately challenge my queen, can they? But I still don't see where my advantage is. I've got to start advancing these pawns because that's the advantage, right? Maybe now that if they move their rook or that pawn, maybe now I can start advancing my pawns, or maybe draw my bishop back here to get it out of the way of the pawns. I don't know. If any of you have an idea, help me out. I tried to go through this as far as I could from the original position to see how I could convert this advantage. Stockfish keeps saying I'm up -3, but we've already repeated a couple of positions twice, and some of them could have been repeated more, especially if this is from a blitz game, and the left column, which you can't see, says it is from a blitz game. So I wouldn't have time to think about all these intricacies. I would keep moving my queen, trying to check, trying to challenge the rooks and get my queen to safety, and they would keep having these protected squares where the knight protects all of these squares and that pawn protects this square. So those rooks have a lot of power there to challenge my queen. Help me out if you know the answer to why black has such an advantage here this late in a blitz game where you wouldn't have time to think about it. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.